Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very sorry that I couldn't be there in person. I hope I get a chance to visit Milan soon and see all the great work you're doing. But for now, this is Ditte checking in from Copenhagen to tell you a bit about how we in Lendager utilize circular economy as a tool to enable a more sustainable built environment. And let me just start with why we think circular economy is a tool that can be utilized for just that. Essentially, what we see is that we can design the world of tomorrow with the waste of today while designing a world without waste. So the first goes, of course, to a short-term problem fixing of making sure that we can reutilize all of the waste that we have already generated and that we can see will be generated in the future. If you think about your own home right now, how many things will become waste within the next 1-2 years? And at the same time, of course, that's where we're at now. But for the medium to the long term, we need to design a world without waste, and that is also a responsibility and an opportunity for how we go about designing both buildings, products, and business models in Lendager. And so let me start with an example. This is Upcycle Studios. It is a project that we made for the developer Nordic Real Estate Partners, and Lendager was both working as an architect but also delivering the materials made out of upcycled concrete, upcycled wood, and upcycled windows, and thus working again towards delivering materials out of the waste that we have today, but also being mindful of how can we do that in partnerships so that we're not all of a sudden creating new waste streams, but instead making sure that we can start designing a world without waste. And so these are some of the results. We had 100% recycling and reuse of the wood, both interior and exterior, and somewhere between 50 and 85% of the windows are also reused windows. So those are windows coming from existing buildings where they were taken down due to not living up to new energy requirements. But by designing for circularity and putting them together in two, as you can see, we were able to reutilize well-functioning windows, make sure that they lived up to current energy requirements without compromising on daylight, but instead delivering on price and reducing CO2 emissions quite greatly. And lastly, we also worked with recycling the concrete aggregate, so actually setting up a mobile plant on site and creating in situ concrete made out of the concrete that was already available and had already been used. And so in total, we were able to deliver 45% CO2 reductions without compromising on price, quality, nor aesthetics. And how we were able to do that was essentially by using materials, using circular economy, using sustainability as a positive creative constraint, something that heightened our ambition in regards to the build, rather is something where, maybe we all know the feeling of sustainability being something it's a little bit less pretty, less all these different things. We really saw that we needed to use it as something that actually made it more pretty, more comfortable, more convenient. And how we go about that is essentially, as this model shows, setting design for circularity at the core. So when doing a project such as this, when doing materials, whatever we do, looking at, okay, what are actually the resources that are available, starting with that, creating resource innovation. So not creating new types of products, but essentially creating new ways to produce those products by reutilizing existing waste streams, and then hopefully being able to deliver both on prosperity and a new type of more sustainable growth, because we do need that. in the sense that the world population is growing quite greatly. The middle class is growing quite greatly. So people are, for the first time ever, getting a roof over their head, running water, etc., which is great for them. But of course, it also means that we need a lot more to be able to cater to that global demand. And at the same time, the UN's climate panel, IPCC, is saying, guys, from what we're already doing, we need to lower that greatly. So a growing population, a growing middle class, and we already need to reduce what we're doing by 40 to 70%. To me, that just very clearly states we can't sub-optimize the existing products, the existing systems, the existing business models. We need to fundamentally design a new way of going about. And there, circular economy and designing for circularity can play a key role so that we can truly be able to prosper together as a global nation, but also with our planet. And so I will just share a bit more on how we see that happening. And so I don't know if you're familiar with Johan Roykström and his work on the 9 planetary boundaries, but if not, I highly recommend it, because what it really gives us is a tool for really finding the boundaries within we can grow and we can deliver to that global demand, but without compromising on our planet's availabilities and thus mitigating climate change as well as hoping to avoid some of the adaptation that we would otherwise need to do. And so the 4 circular R's are reuse, reduce, as you can almost see, reduce, reuse, recycle, and replace. And it's not without reason that reduce is at the center. That's where we really know that we can deliver within the planetary boundaries. So there is always an important exercise in just looking toward how can we reduce existing use. We saw with Upcycle Studios the example, simply when we started producing on site, we were able to reduce the amount of material wasted in production, and thus that was one of the most important reasons for CO2 emissions going down in the recycling of concrete. So we should all just really be very mindful of that's a very simple but very effective way to do much better already today. And I think in general, Upcycle Studios plays or tells a story that's important. It reduced 45% with existing available technology. What it really came down to was design and the mindset of really wanting to work with recycled and reused materials and making sure that it could happen by collaborating across the entire value chain. So if we can do that already, imagine what will be possible when we have new technologies commercialized, when we have infrastructure for recycling and reuse, when we have many more people working, putting the best minds to use towards really enabling a more sustainable built environment. And this is another example. This is a project with Carlsberg, the Danish brewery. They had this Draft Master keg and was not able to find a solution for how it could be recycled. And then we, again, putting design for circularity at the core, was able to see that we could turn it into beautiful new products, actually utilizing that. While it looked like a unanimous green color, it actually isn't. It was a composite, so as soon as it's handled, as soon as there's any type of heat towards it, you start seeing and the material essentially having different colors and different, because they have different qualities, so that's different melting points. For us, that was a super interesting design feature and aesthetic feature, and thus we were able to create design products and enabling the value chain to ensure that they were taken back and recycled rather than incinerated. And a few examples: the Olympic Pavilion. we were tasked with creating the Danish Olympic Pavilion. It's only supposed to be there for 6 weeks, so how do you create a sustainable building that lasts for such a short time? You can't, but what you can do is design for circularity. So we took that replastic material from the Carlsberg Draftmaster keg, utilized it to create this chair alongside waste wood, and then we took the chair and turned it into the pavilion and the construction of the pavilion. So first life being a Draftmaster keg, second life being a facade for a pavilion, and third life being a chair. This is a few of the looks, and you can see here the chairs as they were. And then there's just this last example. It's from Milan and the design week in Milan and the Danish pavilion there, where the concept was used and where we had the pavilion built of the chairs. And one thing I just also wanted to highlight in that regard is all of our learnings with working with the plastic materials. We recirculated that knowledge, if you will, with the organization Architects Without Borders, and went to a refugee camp in Uganda, brought quite simple equipment, because it is quite simple equipment that's needed, gave them that, and so that they could take all of the plastic waste that they had in the refugee camp and with the very simple machinery turn it into roofing that was much needed to protect their housing from rain, but also being able to deliver the facade or the roofing that you see in this picture to us. So thus recycling a material, enabling new skills, and reducing a waste problem. That was all that I am going to share today. I hope you will have a wonderful day, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have questions or inputs or whatnot. Thank you so much.